the culture within the game is just so toxic. Like, I'm not gonna say the people inside the game are toxic, but it's the like I don't think the individual people are that toxic, but the thing is the culture itself is toxic, if that makes sense. The culture of gatekeeping, the culture of like, wiping and like reing and like all this stuff is just very toxic. But part of it is also like, if we had more players, it would be a little bit better. Let's say you want to go do Theamine, right? If you look at all the parties, it's homework, bus, homework, bus, like, homework, bus, homework, bus, homework, bus, homework, bus, right? There's no real like spectrum of like parties. It's either buses or homework. There's no like, prog or like soft reclear or like, all that stuff that exists in KR, where people of all different like ranges of like of experience can just hop into. My same is basically gatekeeping. I mean, the thing is, we can't fix gatekeeping, right? We can't fix gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is gonna keep existing. So what I'm saying is, like, in KR, the gatekeeping is a problem, but at least the new players can still play with the new players, and the experienced players can still play with the experienced players. Right now, if you're a newer player, it's gonna be so hard for you to get into any parties, because there's literally no parties that are made for you. Whereas in KR, at least you have parties that are made for you that you can join. Yeah, you might, and then you get in a situation where everybody's playing with people around their own skill level, which, I mean, is fine. At least people get to play, right? There's chill, reclear, reprog, and experience homework reclear. The problem is that people who are in reprog want in on homework lobbies, and that's fucked up. I mean, that is also a problem, right? But the thing is, at some point, like, at the end of the day, there's only one way to solve gatekeeping, right? Actually, there's two ways. One is probably extremely toxic for the game and would just make everybody hate their lives, which is making so that they get rid of being able to see roster level, get rid of cards in general, and that way you're only gatekeeping off of like, well, this doesn't solve gatekeeping, I guess, but it makes it a lot better, right? You're only gatekeeping off stats, off gems, off of engravings. The other way, which I think is probably the best solution, that's probably never going to happen, is just make it so that the raids are less punishing. Like, I'm not entirely sure how we can get like an FF14 situation where the raids, people don't gatekeep as much. I'm sure they're still gatekeeping, but people just don't gatekeep nearly as much as they do in Lost Ark. And maybe that's because in FF14 raids, they're not like Lost Ark raids where you have to do them week after week after week after week for like 16, 18 raids or something like that. Having roster stuff is like interview and no resume. Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's how you can get rid of like the gatekeeping in general, because you literally have nothing to take a look at. You see, here's the thing, Junie. I think that it's very tough, and I'm not saying that gatekeeping is good or whatever, right? I think gatekeeping is bad, but when you are making a lobby, for example, let's say gatekeeping doesn't exist, right? Gatekeeping doesn't exist. You don't let people, you just let anybody in, right? Well, you get into a run, you start doing that run, and you can clearly tell somebody has not done the run before. Then what are you going to do? You're probably going to vote quit, leave, kick that guy out, right? At the end of the day, there does need to be some way to make it so that new players, like people who are completely new at the raid, aren't joining parties that are reclear, because it's not a good experience for anybody, right? It's not a good experience for the new player who goes and gets themselves kicked. It's not a good experience for the people who are experienced reclear either, because they have to go waste their time, go in there, see if the person's right, and then kick them, right? It's not the player's fault. No, it's definitely not the player's fault that there's gatekeeping. It's 100% the game's fault. It's 100% the punishing raids and like how it's like designed around like, and this all goes back to like the way that the game, like the ultimate goal of the game, right? Which is monetization, making money, making it pay to win, right? Because in Lost Ark, it's a pay to win game. You're getting your ass gate kept. What do you do? What do you want to do after you're getting your ass gate kept? Well, you know what? I need to go make my character stronger. I need to push my character's item level. I need to get better gems. I need to buy the card packs and get cards, right? All of this is to feed back into the pay-to-win system that is Lost Ark, and all of it is to incentivize players to pay more for the game. And that's why they're never going to fix gatekeeping. Even the hard mode requirement advancing like level 7 transcendence. I mean, that's one of the many areas that is an issue that causes gatekeeping, right? And you could say that mentoring system is not existent and it would help, and I think it would help, right? But at the end of the day, the mentoring system isn't a it's not an end-all type of thing. Like, yeah, if you had a mentor, right? Let's say I'm a new player, I had a mentor. The mentor helps me out and brings me into a party and teaches me how to do the raid, right? But the mentor is not always gonna be there to like mentor me and like bring me through the raid, right? Am I gonna be forever stuck in mentor parties? Like, I don't know. Because like, if, let's say like I'm a player, first started off, right? Maybe I've played, I'm starting the game off. There's a mentoring system. I joined mentors. We've learned the raid. Great, right? I'm joining maybe I'm doing mentor raids for 2-3 weeks. It's been a month, right? At this point, I'm already an expert at the gate. Does that mean that I could join the other parties? No, because I don't have card set. I don't have roster level. I don't have all these things that I'm still going to get gate kept. Even if there was a mentor system, right? Unless you're running mentor parties until you get LOS 30, 200 plus roster level, unfortunately, the mentor system is going to be a part of help, but I just don't think it will fix everything. The only way, right, that I think that new players can actually get into parties and not worry about gatekeeping is if they make their own parties right now. But the thing is, it's really tough because how many new players are there in the game for you to party together with? And it also, of course, requires you to learn side heroes like that, which is not fine. It's fine. It's not hard. And this all just goes back to how punishing the raids are, right? And this is the thing with new players, because everybody who is at endgame has been finely crafted and refined and pressure tested into a goddamn diamond, right? All of us in the end game are pretty much I don't know, kind of what's the right word? Not groomed, but we were all trained to have a certain mindset for this game. We know what to expect from this game. We know how the raids are. We know that they're punishing. And the people who have stayed are the people who are willing to sit there and grind their asses off to clear a raid. Whereas a new player coming into this game, all of them have different levels of expectations and a huge spectrum of experiences and mindsets and things like that. Which is why you get people who come in who want to either get carried, or some people just want in and come in coast. Some people want to join reclears and just get brought through the raid. People are of all different mindsets, and at the end of the day, Lost Ark is a game that caters towards one type of mindset. The type where you go in there, you grind, you don't give up, and then you eventually clear the raid. And that's the people that end up surviving. But at a new player level, that just doesn't exist, because everybody coming in has a different expectation. And that's why you get this situation where some people are just joining lobbies, expecting to get carried. It fails 2-3 times and they leave, right? But at the end of the day, that comes down to how punishing the raids are. Because if the raids weren't as punishing, then it would cater to a lot of more wide variety of people and mindsets. Do you think a ranking system would help? They could take all the data we have on meters and give a ranking system based on the data in class you play, have requirements. I mean, at the end of the day, a ranking system would just be, in many cases, kind of just another way to gatekeep people, right? Now, you can say that it might be a better, more efficient way to gatekeep people, but it might work if there was more people in the game. But for example, if you're one of the lowest ranked people, right? I don't think even like people around your rank would want to play with you with how punishing this game is. Like, if you're going in there with all like bronze 2 players into like Echidna, like, are you gonna clear the raid? Probably not. Like, even you had the ranking system, like I still don't think that it would help. And then now you get into situations where you're like boosting people, and like this person's like clearly had bought their account. Like there's still that exists in the game too, right? So you still have all that in the game that would kind of add for other toxic systems, and like it just not fix the problem at the end of the day. Like how they start giving out free Deep Dive 18 and Power Pass. How much included? Much more LO. How about including more LOS in MSQ or side quests? I mean, I think that anything they could do to make the process to get LOS 30 faster is going to help a lot. But eventually, right? Even if every new player, like let's say every single new player starts off with LOS, right? It would help a lot, but there would still be other things to gatekeep for, like roster level, like demon damage, right? Like there's at the end of the day, all of these things just don't fix the problem. The reason why people gatekeep is that the game itself is extremely punishing. And if you have this game, if you go and make the game less punishing, then there will be less gatekeeping. Because, you know, even if you have to carry 1 or 2 people in your party and you can still clear the raid, that's a lot better than right now. And that's going to be like, you know, a lot more people are going to be okay with that. Lost Ark was meant to be a hard game, then casuals got attracted to it. I mean, I don't think it's possible to have a thriving game that is only catered towards hardcore people. Because of how big raids are and how big of a component to our overall gearing and like growth of our characters is, it kind of breeds this culture where we want to be able to clear our raids efficiently and effectively. And at the end of the day, the raids are punishing, so it kind of caters towards a more hardcore audience. So I'm trying to think about MMOs in general as in a landscape, right? Like, how do other games deal with these issues of like catering towards non-hardcore people and like casuals and hardcore people? And like, I'm thinking about like any game, right? Valorant, Counter-Strike, like, you know, whatever, all these super popular games. The reason why they're popular is because you can be super hardcore and you have and you can play it as a super hardcore player, but also you could be super casual and you can still play super casual. But the thing is, like, most of these games don't have progress gated behind how well they're doing. Like you can still play the game and enjoy the game as like a, you know, absolute jeweler in Counter-Strike, because you'll be put up with other jewelers and you're playing together and you might still feel like a goddamn badass because you're a better jeweler than the other guy, right? But if you put a group of jewelers in Lost Ark together to form a party, they might never clear a raid. They might never clear Theamine. And that's the difference between like a game like Counter-Strike and a game like Lost Ark. I mean, it's true. They might never clear. There's literally people who have been trying to clear, like, who have been trying to clear Theamine for like months, and they still haven't cleared it. They get together every week on weekends, and this is first-hand story, by the way. This is actually, I know people who have done this. They are still progging Theamine even 2-3 weeks ago. They get together every single weekend. They spend 4 to 6 hours progging Theamine, and they still haven't cleared it. Like, and that's the thing, right? And that's the reason why this game is not like, we'll never have like a casual friendly Lost Ark. And that's why it's always catered towards like hardcore players. The raids themselves are just punishing at the end of the day. And there's no like hand-holding system. There's no like handicap. There's nothing like that. Again, solo raids are a great kind of like middle ground, right? I think solo raids have made the game a lot more casual friendly, but at some point, these solo raid players are going to hone past the group raid, like the solo raid threshold, and they're going to get into group raids, and they're just gonna have to stop playing the game. And if they're willing to come back after that, sure, that's great, right? I think there will be a number of people who are just willing to wait for solo raids and just be like, okay, you know, we'll come back later and we'll be fine, right? But there are definitely a number of people who aren't. Which at the end of the day, which is why I always say solo raids are good, but I don't think that, like, you know, it's an end-all be-all. It's a good thing, it's very helpful. But at the end of the day, if you want, like, it's growing the player base for sure. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, you need a little bit more. Casual players at the end of the day, right? Solo raids are good and helpful to like the casual audience, but at the same time too, it's like not everybody, like, if somebody wants to go into a group raid, they should be allowed to and still have a good experience. But as it stands, if you're a new player or like you don't have the roster level, whatever it might be, even if you want to transition into group raids, you're going to be met with like a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of issues there, which is a bummer. Again, learning raids are great. Learning raids will help you get in, help you learn the raids, but at some point you're not going to be a learner anymore. But at the same time, you don't have the gear to not get gatekept by the reclears. And that's the main issue. Why cater to casuals if they produce no revenue? I mean, the thing is, like, at the end of the day, right? It's not about catering to casuals. It's about making a game that's friendly for everybody to play, that's fun for hardcore players to play, and also fun for casuals to play. Because if you don't have new players, if you don't have casuals, the game ends up dying, which is where we're like, I'm not saying we're dead right now, but like, you know, Lost Ark is definitely over time constantly dropping in player base, right? And the only way to actually bolster that player base back up is if we have stuff that allows new players to come in, join the game, enjoy the game, and retaining those players. That's one of the bigger issues. Lost Ark has a lot of systems that'll help new players come into the game, right? They have jumpstart servers. They have all these power pass events. They have, like, you know, Makoko Express. They have all these things that'll help a new player come on and join the game. But the problem is there's nothing to retain those new players. And if you're not retaining new players, every time, you know, like, hardcore players, right? Yes, you can cater to them, but eventually somebody might have to quit the game. Like, eventually, you know, maybe Stoops splits the game, maybe, like, you know, it's like anybody, right? Any hardcore player might quit the game. No matter how much, like, energy you put into catering to the hardcore player, eventually one of them is going to quit, because not just because they don't enjoy the game, but maybe it's because of real life. Maybe it's because of, like, you know, like their computer died. They lost, you know, they don't have a job. They can't pay for it anymore. Different things like that, right? But when that hardcore player quits, you need to have somebody to come replace them, right? But if you have no new players, if you have nobody coming into the game, nobody's going to replace that person. And as the hardcore players stop playing the game, as one person stops playing the game, that makes the population in the raid finder, the party finder, one less person, and makes the party finder a worse experience. And then another person quits, and then another person quits. But then again, we don't have the new players to come in and replace those people. So eventually the game's just going to die out. So that's why you need to have both catering towards hardcore and casual players. You need to have the systems in there for the hardcore players to feel like they have something to work towards and something to play and something that's exciting to keep them in the game. But you also need to have a system where new players are feeling like they can enjoy the game and even be casual with the game and enjoy it. And then maybe eventually they'll transition into hardcore player, who knows, right? But the problem is, when we have at the moment where new players come in, a casual comes in, there's nothing that keeps them playing the game. The problem is there's no investment in tier 4 advertising. I also think, like, yes, but also even if they advertise the fuck out of tier 4, right? It doesn't matter, because you can't even play tier 4 until you're at the end game. You can't reap the benefits of the new content unless you're an end game hardcore player. I wish that they, like, T4 is, I think, a much better system than what we have right now. Arc Passes system is way better than anything that we have right now. The new engraving system is way better than what we have right now. Why are we keeping it to T4? Why can we not just make it so every player can start off the game enjoying this new way of gearing and a new way of progressing their characters? That way, you can actually have an exciting announcement for people who are joining the game, who are new players, and they actually get to start experiencing tier 4 the moment they start playing. Wouldn't that be the next step? I agree, and I hope that's their goal, right? But I think that we're talking, like, because we were on the topic of, like, oh, we don't have enough marketing for tier 4. The problem is, tier 4, even if you market the fuck out of it, even if you throw fucking, like, Michael Jordan, fucking LeBron James, fucking Steph Curry, Shroud, Asmund Gold, you throw everybody into this marketing, right? People come in, they start playing the game, and they're like, wait a second, where's this shit that they advertised? Oh, I have to play half a year to get to where that shit... Well, probably not half a year. Maybe like 2 months, right? I have to play 2 months to get to that content? I'm out. It's like you could throw all these people in there. You can make, you know, Asmund play the game again, XQC, you know, like fucking Shroud, fucking like Kai Cenat, whatever, right? You get all these people to play the game. You might have a huge boost in players first month. What's going to happen afterwards? They're like, wait a second, all the shit that they advertise is not here. This game's fucking like only caters to a hardcore audience. Like, I'm literally sitting here with my finger up my ass. I can't do shit.